Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mixed Level Yoga. Today, we're gonna need 2 blocks, possibly a strap. I'm gonna get you started in a restorative heart opening posture. So if you don't have blocks, you could use a pillow underneath your scapula, underneath your shoulder blades as you lie back. Otherwise, let's place the blocks on their medium height, both like an equal sign, just like this. And keeping your pelvis on the ground, lie back so that the block that's closer to you will land right under the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. And the back of your head is supported by the further block. And if it feels like this is a little too deep in opening your chest to start, you could tilt the block that's under your head 1 step higher, putting it on its tallest height. And then decide how your legs feel, if they want to splay open with knees bent, soles of the feet together, beginning to open the hips in Supta Baddha Konasana, or if you'd rather just splay your legs forward. If you're having any tightness in the lower back, you could bend the knees, step your feet apart wider than your hips distance, and drop your knees together to touch. A gentle way to stretch across your sacrum. And you might like to turn your palms to face up as the backs of your hands rest slightly away from your sides. Perhaps even close your eyes and make a conscious transition from what you were attending to just a minute ago to what's happening here and now. As you bring your attention to your physical body, slowly scan it in your mind's eye from head to toe. Noticing just what is. Is your body telling you it needs something particular in the practice today? Perhaps more slowing down or more resting in child's pose, or the opposite. More vinyasas in between the poses. One way might you choose to color your practice to feel a state of balance, especially in your mind. Observe the energy there of your thoughts. And now bringing your awareness to your breath, start to slow it down. You might choose to exhale a sound to your mouth, sort of unpacking through each exhalation. Allowing greater breaths in, expanding your rib cage on all 4 walls, expanding down into the pit of your belly. On your next breath out, allow it to whisper out to your mouth as long as you can let it last. And then hold the breath at the bottom on empty just a few seconds. Letting your belly hollow as it drops closer to your spine. And with that, welcome perhaps a deeper inhalation. Feel the rise at the center of your chest and hold the breath in for a few seconds, feeling that contrast. You might try that once again, holding the breath out and holding the breath in. And as we slow the breath down, allowing the mind to slow down its pace, Now let's continue to breathe just through the nose so that we can warm the body using Ujjayi Pranayama, or victorious breath. So as you close your lips, softly constrict the back of your throat and ease your breath equally, both in and out to your nose, listening to a soft whispering sound as your breath glides past the back of your throat. Feeling this balance in your breathing, let's begin to move the body out of this position. So if your legs are extended forward, bend your knees and step your feet onto the ground. You could either turn over to one side, rolling off of the blocks, or press your hands on either side and start to rise forward, whatever is the path of least resistance for you, so that you can come up to sit. The Bhagavad Gita is an ancient Indian text from which yoga philosophy and yoga itself is based, one of the texts. And it presents yoga as a set of skills that inform our everyday attitudes and actions, wherever we are and whatever we're doing, not just in physical postures. Yoga enables us to face life's challenges at work, at home, in our relationships. In a website or blog called 8 Limbs Yoga, Jen Yaros describes yoga as skill in action, the way it's described in the Bhagavad Gita. And she explains that rather than just being aware of our tendencies to become agitated, angry, nervous, anxious, overexcited, sad, or blue, we develop the tools to move these energies through us without getting thrown off our center, distracted, scattered, or put down. Rather than simply reacting or responding to whatever life throws our way, through yoga as skill in action, we choose the quality of our experiences by what we bring to the moment, not what the moment brings to us. In Eckhart Yoga's website, they talk about 3 patterns we might get entangled in and how yoga as skill and action would be needed. One is we act from how we want things to be rather than how they are. We let our attachments and our desires get in the way of how we see things, and we act from a distorted view of the situation we find ourselves in. Or 2, we might focus on the results of our actions. We have been culturally programmed to associate our success with getting the outcomes we aim for, and our enjoyment comes from the results rather than the process. Or 3, we might find it difficult to accept when things don't pan out the way we envisage. We consider this as failure with all its negative connotations, and we look around for someone to blame, or perhaps more commonly, we engage in a bout of self-flagellation. So, according to the Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 forms of yoga that offer method to loosen ourselves from these patterns. One is jnana yoga, or the yoga of wisdom. And that's growing our ability to see things as they are and to discriminate between what's real and what's not real. If you'll remember, the kleshas, or roots of suffering, talks about in the first. And the second tool is karma yoga, which is the yoga of selfless service. It's growing our ability to go about and do our thing purely for the sake and joy of doing it, and without getting attached to how the outcome should look. And 3, bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of surrender. It's growing our ability to accept what comes and to surrender to the larger flow of things. As many of us might be in the US having anxieties about what we want the election outcome to be, how can we practice these tools of yoga to find some inner peace? So in our yoga on the mat, we bring our attention inside. We take a close look at what we're doing and how we're being in our bodies. And we start to explore the choices we have in attitude and action from moment to moment. Embodying yoga as skill and action, we start to act from how things are as our vision gets clearer and less clouded by attachments and desires. We start to respond to situations as they unfold rather than holding on to our preconceived fixed outcomes. And we show compassion for ourselves and for others, whatever comes. So let's bring those qualities of openness in mind, heart, and body, strengthening them in our physical practice to embody them off the mat. So as you continue to breathe gently, audibly through your nose, building the warmth through Ujjayi Pranayama, let's lower down to hands and knees, all fours, and begin to move to that sound rhythm of breath. So as you set your knees on the ground, just under your hips, set your wrists about 2 inches ahead of your shoulders, spreading your fingers wide and flat. On an inhale, glide your spine forward before coiling your chest up into cow pose. As you exhale, contract your belly, rounding your back into cat pose. Keep going at your own pace of breath. Breathing in as you lift your heart. Breathing out as you lift your navel. On your next exhalation, tuck your toes and lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Or you might choose to spend the first few breaths shifting around and moving organically on your own, unless you feel ready to be right away still. Feel that your wrists are still shoulders width or slightly wider apart as you point your index fingers both forward, parallel to each other. And that the space in between your thumbs and index fingers are rooted firmly into the ground while you rotate the outer sides of your upper arms towards the ground to help broaden space across the tops of your shoulders. Feel free to bend your knees as much as you might need, especially at the start, to find the fullest length of your spine both in the front and back. Sticking your tailbone up high, firm the front of your thigh bones back, and feel the energy releasing downward through the backs of your legs, downward through your heels, even if they don't meet the floor. So now let's hold still. Steady your gaze on the ground towards your feet. As you lengthen your neck, relax it. Feel your belly active, drawing inward towards your spine. Sitting bones continue to rise as heels continue to descend. Lengthen through the sides of your torso. Here for 2 more deep breaths. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now, as you keep the height of your 2 hips leveled, inhale, slowly raise your right leg behind you, flexing the foot. Exhale, bend your right knee and now turn open at your right hip. As you breathe in, draw your left outer hip further back, lengthening the left side of your lower back. And as you breathe out, bend your right knee towards your nose, rounding forward into plank before softly stepping your right foot just inside of your right hand and lower your back knee and untuck the toes. With your legs as wide apart as your hips and your front knee directly on top of the heel. Without moving your legs, energetically scissor them. Feel the strength of your muscles to ground as you raise your arms overhead and lift your torso upright into Vinayasana. Staying for a few breaths. Feel your tailbone like a heavy anchor, seeking the ground under and even slightly forward. As you lift your frontal hip bones, feel your belly engage. Right hip slightly scissoring back to align both hips to face forward. And as you're raising your arms, you're lifting from your fingertips while softening your shoulders slightly behind your ears, down your back. Broadening your chest, gazing up. Let's take 2 more breaths. And with an exhale, lower your hands and step back into downward facing dog. Let's take a modified vinyasa. On an inhale, come forward, lower your knees in a modified plank. Shoulders right above wrists, hips right above knees. As you exhale, glide forward, bend your elbows back so they hug your side ribs, and first lower your chin to the ground. Then slide your chest, belly, then pelvis. With your legs straight back, point your toes and press the tops of your feet actively into the earth so that your knees are off the ground as your pelvis is on the ground. Hug your elbows close to your sides and broaden your chest off the floor as you breathe in. Look on the ground ahead. Cobra pose. Then press downward through hands and knees. Tuck your toes and lift your hips high. Draw your weight back into downward facing dog. Take a deep breath. Now again, keeping your hips balanced. Inhale, raise your left leg behind you. Exhaling, bend your left knee and turn open at the hip. Now as you inhale, tap your right outer hip further back. Exhaling, bend your left knee towards your nose, round forward into plank before lightly stepping your left foot inside of your left hand. Look your right knee, untuck the and separate your legs right above the heel. Energetically, without visible movement, drag your legs towards each other to feel stability to root down as you raise your arms and rise up. Now feel your tailbone, lengthen it towards the ground in front of you. Continue to scissor your left outer hip slightly back as you lift your frontal hip bones, softening your shoulder head slightly behind your ears and down as you lift your heart and gaze up. Hear the sound of your breath. This time as you breathe out, enter plank pose, whether knees are on the ground or legs are straight. And we'll take it through a regular vinyasa. Breathing out, glide forward, bend your elbows back to hug your sides in Chaturanga Dandasana. Then lower to the floor to enter Cobra, or in Chaturanga, untuck your toes and coil your chest up into upward facing dog. Breathing out, contract your belly, lift your hips high, draw your weight back, again to downward facing. Let's take a few breaths here, slowing down the rhythm that will move, synchronizing body and breath. With very bent knees, lift your heels and hips high and look past your hands. After emptying your breath, hold it out and walk or lightly jump to the front of your mat. In a forward fold, have your feet apart, hips distance parallel. Press the ground of your legs. Now lift your chest, gazing forward to right. Exhale, bow in. Firming down through your feet, inhale, sweep your arms overhead towards the sky to stand. Exhale, trace your thumbs down your center line, mountain pose. So let's continuously flow twice through sun salutation A. Inhale, sweep the space around you, gaze. Exhale, hinge from your hips. Press the ground of your legs. Inhale, lengthen forward. Step to plank or lightly jump to Chaturanga Dandasana. Exhaling to lower. Into cobra or upward dog, take a deep breath in. Exhale into downward facing dog. Right away, let your body be still as you steady your gaze on one focal point. Listening to your breath, rebalance. And when you're ready, bend your knees, look ahead of where you want to land your feet. On empty breath, lift your pelvic floor to walk or float to the top. Breathe in to lengthen halfway. Breathe out to fold. Inhale, rise tall, gaze up. Exhale, back to mountain pose. Last sun A. Inhale, circle your arms, Hastasana. Exhale, bow, Uttanasana. Inhale, lengthen forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Step to plank or float into Chaturanga Dandasana. Either Cobra, Bhujangasana, or upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Let's meet in downward dog for 3 to 5 breaths. Still body, steady gaze, balancing breath. Now here, inhale, raise your right leg behind you. Bend the knee again and exhale at the hip. Breathing in, tack your leg further back. But this time, exhale, tap your right knee against your right tricep or outer upper arm, gliding forward in plank. Stay here. You can lower your left knee if you need more support. Inhale, see if you can lift your right knee a little higher towards your right outer armpit. Exhale, slide the right knee down towards your right outer wrist. Inhale, raise the right knee up towards your right outer armpit. Exhale, slide the knee down towards your outer wrist. Last time, inhale, lift the right knee. Exhale, lower it. Inhale, lift. And this time, step your right foot directly between your hands. Spin your back heel down and cartwheel your arms to rise into warrior two. So as you open your arms, your stance is just as wide as where your ankles could land under your wrists. If you need less intensity, you could shorten your stance. Turning in your left leg slightly as you straighten it. Allow your right leg to completely turn out at the hip. Align the center of your right knee with your center right toe down the center line of your mat. Feel as you wrap your right outer hip underneath your body, you're contrasting by pressing the top of your left thigh bone back towards the right width of your mat, so that your pelvis, its bowl shape, is sitting upright and balanced. With arms wide open, shoulders relaxed, long, spacious spine. Steady your gaze, or drishti, on one spot just in front of your right hand. Let's take a few more breaths in Virabhadrasana 2. Now straightening your right leg to enter triangle, you might choose to shorten your stance 2 or 3 inches for added stability. Slide your hips sideways towards the rear edge of your mat, reaching your right hand towards your front wall before tilting it down to land on your right leg or just to the right of it, perhaps on a block. Continue to roll your right outer hip underneath your body and add pressing the crease of your right hip back towards your left outer heel, so that you're trying to equally lengthen the left and right sides of your torso, raising your left arm high, lighten the weight of your right hand. Now, if it feels okay on your neck, steady your gaze up past your left thumb. Soften the shoulders, down your back as you turn your chest slightly to face the sky. Last few breaths here in Utthita Trikonasana, triangle pose. Entering half moon pose. Feel this shape in your body as we tilt it onto just one leg. In transition, you might bring your left hand to your left hip. Steady your gaze on the ground in front of your right foot. Bend your right knee, crawl your right fingertips about 6 inches ahead of your right pinky toe to the right outer corner, perhaps on a block, and drag your left foot forward, flexing it as you lift the heel about the height of your hip. Turn your chest completely to face your left wall, re-entering the shape of triangle pose, but with your left leg lifted. You might add raising your left arm or any other variation like Chua, catching of your left foot like a sideways pull. Nurture the quality, comfort and ease. Being just what is. From half moon pose with your left leg straight. Time landing in warrior two, where you bend your right knee and try to softly step your left foot towards the rear of your mat, both feet on the ground. And once your legs are in warrior two, flip your right palm up and overhead towards your rear wall, entering exalted or peaceful warrior. Left hand could land lightly on your left leg, or you could open the front of your left shoulder deeper by wrapping your left arm behind your back, perhaps catching hold of your right thigh. Notice that your right knee is still bent, tracing the center line of your mat. Let's take another deep breath. Then exhale, cartwheel your hands into plank, either lower into your own version of a vinyasa, take rest in child's pose, or go straight back to downward facing dog. Notice in any way your breath has reacted. As you regain balance, listening to its sound. So from downward facing dog, breathe in to raise your left leg behind you. As you exhale, bend the knee and turn open at the hip. Breathe in and tack your right hip further back. Then exhale, tap your left knee outside your left upper arm, coming forward to stack shoulders over wrists. Staying here, you could lower the right knee for added support. Inhale, see if you can lift your left knee even higher towards your left outer armpit. Exhale, slide your left knee down towards your outer left wrist. Inhale, raise your left knee towards outer armpit. Exhale, slide it down, outer wrist. One more round, inhale up, exhale down. This time, inhale up, then exhale, step the left foot directly between your hands and spin the right heel down for warrior two. Cartwheel your arms to rise up. So generally, have your ankles just under your wrists as you spread your arms wide. For less intensity, shorten your stance. Turning in your right leg as you straighten it. Allow your left leg to completely turn out. Outer hip wraps underneath. Top of your right thigh bone firms back. towards the left edge of your mat. Your pelvic bowl sits upright, nurturing length in your spine. Center of your left kneecap aligns with your center left toe down the midline of your mat as you steady your gaze on one spot just past your left hand. Let's take 2 more breaths here in Virabhadrasana 2. Now preparing for triangles, straighten your left leg and you might choose a slightly shorter stance. Slide your hips sideways towards the rear edge of your mat and reach your left hand forward before lowering it onto your leg or just to the left of your leg. As you raise your right arm, perhaps gazing past it, draw your shoulder blades down your back ribs. Continue to rotate your left outer hip underneath your body and try to equally lengthen both left and right sides of your torso, turning your chest slightly to face the sky. Notice how your body is breathing here in Utthita Trikonasana. Now let's bring this triangle pose to flight in Ardha Chandrasana. You might like to place your right hand on your right hip to help you transition. Steady your gaze on the ground ahead of your left foot. Bending your left knee, crawl your left fingertips 6 inches forward into the left outer corner of your left. Drag your right foot forward and flex it, lifting your heel to the height of your hip. Turn your chest completely to face your right wall, stacking your 2 shoulders over your left wrist. Maybe add raising your right arm. Or entering Chapasana, where you bend your right knee towards your belly and catch the top of your right foot. Imagine the counter forces of a bow and arrow as you rotate your right shoulder open. Now, whatever you're choosing, steady your gaze again and listen to your breathing. Taking your time from straightening your right leg to softly stepping back into Warrior Two. And when your 2 feet are on the floor, flip your left palm to face up and sweep it overhead towards your rear wall, entering Exalted or Peaceful Warrior. Now your right hand could lightly land on your right leg, or to offer your right shoulder a little more opening, wrap the right arm behind your back, maybe catch hold of your left thigh. Keeping your left knee safe, make sure it's still tracing the midline of your mat. Deep breath here. And exhale your hands into plank, perhaps lower into a vinyasa, or choose child's pose, cat-cow, or direct to downward dog. Downward facing, allow a few breaths for perspective. Then crawl your hands back to meet your feet, folding over your legs. Make sure that your feet are at least hips width apart and parallel, entering a wrist stretch called Padahastasana. You might choose to bend your knees for easier access, lift your toes, and flip your palms face up. Slide them under your feet so that your toes meet the inner creases of your wrists. Shift a little more weight towards the balls of your feet than your heels. And as you inhale, lift your chest as though pressing your heart through the gates of your arms. Keep lengthening your spine as you exhale to fold in, dropping your skull and relaxing your neck. Let's try that once more. Inhale as you rise halfway, lengthen from your outer hips to armpits and the sides of your neck. Keep that length and then fold in. Let's stay in a forward fold for a few breaths. You might help to release any tension in your neck by softly moving your skull. Lift your shoulders up, away from your neck. It's by bending your elbows apart. Feel your sitting bones rise as your skull drops. Let's take a lion's breath here. Deeply inhale, then open your eyes wide. Stick out your tongue as you exhale a sigh, crossing the eyes too. From there, close your lips, smoothen the breath out to your nose, release your hands from under, and inhale, sweep your arms overhead to rise. Palms touch, look up. Exhale, your hands together at your heart. Let's step up to the top of your mat, feet together so that your big toes touch. Then bend your knees together to touch as you sit back towards your heels for a few breaths in chair pose. Now looking down, glide your shin bones back enough where you could see your toes. Then gaze forward and lift your heart. Drop your tailbone and hug in your front ribs. Is there any part of your body unnecessarily tensing? Perhaps your eyes or your breath? Be aware here for 2 more breaths. Utkatasana. And with an exhale, hinge forward to fold. Inhale, rise halfway. Step to plank and add a vinyasa, or jump lightly to chaturanga, or skip the vinyasa if you don't need one right now. Let's meet in downward dog. Lifting from your inner thigh to keep your hips balanced. Inhale, raise your right flex foot behind you. Exhale, round forward to softly step your right foot just inside of your right hand so that your feet are hips width apart as you drop your left heel to the ground. Keeping your hips facing forward, bring your arms back by your sides with your palms face down. Imagine you're scissoring your legs towards each other without moving them visibly. Lift your belly to hover just a couple inches off your right thigh and look past your right foot on the ground. Scissor your right hip back, let your left hip come forward. Lengthen your spine as you open your chest and throat. For 3 more breaths here in Degasana, you might add the rigor of extending your arms overhead, upper arms alongside your ears, palms facing each other, triceps rolling down. On your next inhale, slowly rise, spine vertical in warrior 1. Keep your right knee just above the heel. Keep pressing your left outer to the ground. Now, if you could keep your arms straight and your shoulders relaxed away from your neck, try sealing your palms and steadying your gaze up towards your thumbs for the last few breaths. Now joining your hands Gather your heart, lean forward to shift all your weight onto your right. Flexing the left foot off the ground with hips squared forward into warrior three. You have the option of modifying with your hands on blocks or the floor right under your shoulders. Or playing with variations of opening your arms, reaching them forward. To help keep your hips squared, spiral your inner left thigh towards the sky. Feel a lift of your belly as you broaden your chest, gazing ahead. Find length from head to toe as you take one more breath in Virabhadrasana 3. And softly land into crescent lunge. All of your left foot meets the ground. Now from crescent lunge, feel your two hips evenly facing forward and your spine upright. Cactus bend your elbows apart. Your waist, begin to turn your rib cage so that your chest faces the right wall. Keep lengthening your spine upright and then open your arms like a T. Broaden your chest and relax both shoulders down. How is your breathing? Entering side plank, bring your right hand to your right hip. Place your left hand on the ground so that your wrist is right under your left shoulder. Index fingers pointing forward. Roll onto the outer edge of your left flexed foot. That's the pinky toe side. Step your right foot midway down your mat, facing the right wall like a kickstand on a bike for added support. Or stack your right flex foot over the left for a full side plank. As you raise your right arm, lift your left hip away from the floor and stack your right hip just above it. Now feel how you're broadening your chest and your shoulder blades. Lengthening your neck as you lengthen your tailbone towards your inner left heel. Can you feel a rooting down to your left hand and left foot to rise up to your left waist and hip? Last few breaths in Vashisthasana. Sweep your right arm overhead, come down to rest, child's pose or flow, whatever is calling you at this moment, and we'll meet in downward facing dog. Steady eyes, steady breath, steady awareness. Some of you might have met a challenge through that sequence. Did you notice any reactivity? Did you notice an openness to whatever arises? Allowing this mat to be sort of a playground in which to experiment with the qualities that you want to nurture off the mat. Yoga as skill in action. Lifting from your inner thigh, inhale, raise your left leg behind you. Exhale, round forward and step the foot just inside of your left hand so that your feet are hips width apart as you lower your right heel to the mat. Hips facing forward, root down to rise. Up, bring your arms down by your sides and lean your torso forward diagonally. Almost forgot beautiful Degasana. So as we hold here, belly is lifted a couple inches off your left thigh. Scissor your left hip back, bring your right hip forward, gaze ahead of your left toes on the ground, and open your chest and throat. Last 3 breaths. Now inhale, let's rise up, arms over in Virabhadrasana 1. Keep bending your left knee just over the heel, pressing your right heel into the ground. And if you can keep your arms straight and shoulders relaxed away from your neck, While sealing your palms, try that and gaze up onto one spot for a few more breaths. Now join your hands at your heart in prayer. Lean your torso forward again, this time to enter Warrior 3. Flexing your right foot as soon as you lift it off the floor. Think of spiraling your inner right thigh towards the sky to level the height of your two hips. Lifting your navel towards your spine and broadening your chest forward. Explore with any variations of your arms. Find length from head to toe, taking one more breath before landing the ball of your right foot behind you and crescent. With both feet on the ground again, feel your two hips facing forward. Raise your arms. Then cactus bend your elbows apart. Take a deep inhale as you lengthen through the crown of your head. Exhale at your waist, twist. And then open your arms wide like a T. Softening your shoulders down. Spine vertical. Two hips facing forward. Now entering Vashisthasana, place your left hand on your left hip. Right hand flat on the floor so that your wrist is right under your shoulder. Index fingers pointing forward. Roll onto the outside edge of your right flex foot. Drag your left foot midway down your mat facing the left wall like a kickstand. Or stack your left flex foot over the right for full side plank. As you raise your left arm, think triangle pose in your upper body. Think plank pose in your lower body and center. Last few breaths here in Vashisthasana. Sweep your left arm overhead and lower onto all fours. Take rest or flow. Again, we'll meet in downward facing dog. Entering 1 minute of your choice of an active inversion. What qualifies for that is downward facing dog, dolphin pose, headstand, tripod headstand, a standing forward fold, handstand. So take your choice. I'm going to enter dolphin if you want to join me by placing your two elbows on the ground, exactly shoulders distance, forearms parallel or fingers interlaced. And then see if you could walk your feet closer to your elbows. Maybe bring your feet together to touch as you press your chest back towards your shins and lift your shoulders to free your neck. You might add raising a leg as you square your hips and flex your lifted foot. Similar to Warrior 3. Perhaps rest in child's pose and then take another round switching legs. Or go right to the other side. So whenever you feel ready to end your inversion practice, let's meet in child's pose. From child's pose, slide your hands forward and slither onto your stomach into Sphinx pose with your legs straight behind you. Forearms on the floor as you lift your chest. Soften your shoulders down. Now let's give our quads a bit of a stretch before we enter one more active back bend. Cross your left forearm on the ground in front of your chest. Bend your right knee and backstroke your right arm to catch the inner side of your ankle or foot, big toe side. And with your knees no wider apart than hips distance, ground your two frontal hip bones, keep your chest facing forward. And as you breathe, consciously bring your right heel gently and slightly to the outside of your right hip. Feel the support of your left forearm to help relax both of your shoulders behind you and down. Take another deep breath, open chest, left heart. And exhale, release your right leg straight and come back to Sphinx. Scoot your knees as close together as you can. Then cross your right forearm in front of your chest. Bend your left knee and backstroke your left arm to catch the inner side of left ankle or foot. With your knees no wider apart than your hips distance, ground your pubic bone, keep your chest facing forward and your shoulders relaxed. Bring your left heel slightly to the outside of your left hip. Notice how your breath is flowing here. Take another deep inhale. Then exhale, release your left leg straight and lower your forehead to the ground. Let's prepare to either lift the arms and legs into locust pose or to bend your knees and catch your outer feet with your hands for bow pose, Dhanurasana. In either one, try not to splay your knees wider apart than your hips distance. Ground your pubic bone. And if you're bending your knees, kick your legs towards straight as you pull your feet to help lift your knees as you coil your chest up. Relax your shoulders down. So on your own, count another 5 to 8 deep breaths as you massage your digestive organs against the earth. Perhaps focus on breathing into your heart space and into your belly. When you decide to let go, you might like to make a pillow for your head out of your forearms. Gently windshield wiper your shins together side to side to help loosen your lower back. Breathe in to your nose and let out a big sigh through your mouth. Couple more. Let's slide into child's pose from here. Bring your feet together. Drop your pelvis towards your heels and extend your arms actively forward, lengthening your spine. Then walk your hands back to the outsides of your knees. Tuck your chin. Roll your spine upright. Slide your left leg straight ahead in front of you and step your right foot just in front of your right hip. As you hold your right shin with your left hand, backstroke your right hand to the floor behind your pelvis. And sit up a little taller as you flex your left foot, breathing in. Exhale, twist to your right. A few more breaths. If you want to add the leverage of your left elbow outside your right thigh, you could do that. Just make sure that crown is still stacked above your tailbone. Shoulders remain relaxed. Let's take one more deep breath. And as you exhale to unwind, drop your right knee open for Janu Shirshasana, a forward fold. Bring the sole of your right foot high on your inner left thigh, and if you choose to use a strap, step the ball of your left foot into it and hold the strap with two hands. Otherwise, frame your left leg with your hands, sit up tall, then extend your heart forward as you crawl your hands forward, maybe catching hold of your calf, ankle, or foot. Head to knee pose, Janu Shirshasana. With your next inhale, lead with your chest and slowly rise. Slide your right leg straight ahead. Step your left foot just in front of your left hip, your left shin with your right hand. Back stroke your left hand to the floor behind your pelvis. And breathe in, lift your spine upright. Breathe out, begin to twist to your left. Keep going. You might add a leverage of your right elbow outside. One more deep breath. And as you exhale, unwind your spine, drop your left knee open, and bring the sole of your left foot high on your inner right thigh. Janu Shirshasana, either a strap around the ball of your right foot, holding it with two hands, or place your hands to frame your right leg. Breathe in, sit up tall. Breathe out, hinge your hips. Little by little. On your next inhale, lead with your chest, slowly rise up, and let's lower onto our backs. Take just another 30 seconds for any movement or gentle posture before you land your body in Shavasana. Perhaps lifting your legs up higher than your heart for a cooling inversion. And then take the time to lower your body in a comfortable position of rest. Close your eyes. Relax your face. Let go of controlling your breath. As we're about to enter 5 minutes of optional meditation, you might choose to stay in Shavasana. Otherwise, begin to lift your body gently up to sit. Choosing your own way of meditating. Setting the timer now for 5 minutes. practice together. Join your palms to meet at your hearts, bowing into close. In what ways might we enrich our daily lives, remembering that yoga is skill in action? Let's close with one chant of Om. Take a deep breath. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.